Well, let's speak now to geopolitical analyst Marco Vicenzino, who can join us. Marco, thank you for your time. And, of course, we should add it's not just Prime Minister Sunak. We've got Joe Biden there as well. And I guess overhanging all this is what the Chinese are threatening to do with perhaps Taiwan.
Yes, I mean, first and foremost is the location, the symbolism of the location, Hiroshima, where the first atomic bomb dropped in 1945. And the symbolism is important because we're living in a world of escalating conflict. It's not just the Ukraine war alone, but the threat of conflict over Taiwan, South China Sea, East China Sea, and many other places in the region and beyond. So location, AI being important. Two of the issues. First and foremost, what's on the cover of the G7 meeting, the most important issue is going to be Ukraine war. But really, the other big issue, the one where some may argue even bigger, is the issue of China, Taiwan, and the broader region. Now, the West, it's important for the West, the G7 countries, and the broader West to remain united. It's essential and it's indispensable. Obviously, you have the second grouping of countries, which we can call the revisionist autocracies, being China, Russia, Iran, and many others. And then in the world, we have with the third link. The third link is the non-aligned movement that's been traditionally known, basically the rest of the world. And to a certain extent, you can call it the global South to a certain extent. Right. It's important for the G7 countries, very, very important, as they compete more with the revisionist autocracies, i.e. China and Russia, is to have effective outreach to the rest of the world. That's it. The West needs to reach out to the rest very effectively.
Yeah, I was going to, given all those challenges, is the G7 going to speak with one voice, or is there a difference in approach as to how they deal this? Because certainly, obviously, with Ukraine, we saw France taking perhaps a rather different line to other European countries, for instance.
Now, basically, the communique, that'll be evident in the communique, and they're working on the details of the communique. Generally speaking, the European members of the G7 would like to have more of a non-confrontational rhetoric in the communique vis-a-vis China, meaning mentioning the threat of China, but not specifically mentioning China. While the U.S., in that sense, is probably going to wants to explicit mention, and they're going to have to work out the language. Generally, I think they understand the level of threat, but rhetorically, there may be different approaches. But also within the European context, obviously, you have Germany, Italy, France, the UK within a broader European context. There's different approaches amongst them. The French, as you mentioned, the visit by Macron, in my opinion, was very useful for Chinese rhetoric globally. He was saying things that they like to hear for his own national interest and for his own. While on the other side, the Germans are quite strongly against. And the bottom line is that the French are pushing for within Europe what they call a greater strategic autonomy, while the Americans are saying we need to have a broader front, a broader united front, that unity, that Western unity is essential and indispensable for moving forward in the coming months, weeks, and decades in the 21st century.
Marco, as ever, thank you very much indeed for that analysis.